Well, hey guys, it's Dr. Drake 63 here today, and got a couple recent AR builds in front of you, and talked about them in detail, probably more detail than a lot of guys, except the most nerdiest of the nerds like me would be interested in hearing about. But today I want to specifically talk about the barrels and some of the choices that are available today, and what I consider to be a lot of the mythology surrounding what you need and what's important. What you're looking at right now is a nitraded barrel. It's also referred to as a QPQ barrel, which stands for quench, polish, and quench. We're going to talk about what that means. Right here you have a barrel that is chrome lined. And these are both made out of 4150 steel. They're both very, very fine quality in terms of the metallurgy involved. This one, you notice, has a nice, smooth, almost kind of glossy finish. This one has a parkerized type of finish, where not so much. And the big difference is this one is on the inside lined with chrome. On the outside, this finish is applied to protect it, whereas this barrel is treated the same inside as it is outside. So we're going to talk briefly today about what some of those differences are. And I'm going to also throw my hat in the ring on what I think about cold hammer forged versus button rifling. So stay tuned. If you're like me, you'll get just as excited about the part showing up on your doorstep as you will about seeing the finished product. Building ARs is absolutely cool. Now, it's important when selecting a barrel, and obviously this is going to apply just as much to people that are purchasing a brand new, complete factory firearm as it is to somebody who's putting together parts in an assembly, or what's also known as a build. And I covered earlier this week, this guy right here is a complete build by me. I did the whole thing, picked out a barrel, picked out the gas system, the whole 9 yards, assembled the lower, all those things. And what's important to realize when we're looking at what kind of rifle we with is what we're going to do with it. And I think the biggest mistake I see guys do is they spend money they don't need to for a use that they're not going to use it for. So what are some of the most common uses you'll see for a firearm? Well, number one is, hey, I want to take this thing out and I want to see how accurate I can be at 50 or 100 or 200 yards. And so based on that, I'm going to go out and maybe fire a couple hundred rounds a month. All right, so that's one type of barrel. Let me tell you what you don't need for that type of barrel. You don't need to be spending money on a chrome line barrel. You don't need to be spending money on a really super expensive cold hammer forged affair, and you don't need to be spending money on the best brand name that you can pronounce, whether it's Bravo Company, Daniel Defense, things like that. Why do I say that? Well, because what you're doing is you're spending money that you're never going to recoup. You're spending money on things that don't apply to your use, okay? Now, if, on the other hand, you're somebody that's going to do mag dump after mag dump after mag dump, and you're going to get this barrel smoking hot, maybe cherry red, and it's going to be that way on a frequent basis, well, then you need to start paying attention to things such as heat. Do I need chrome lining in that case? Chances are that might be a good idea, but still, chrome lining is basically something that was brought into the fold of things because of its resistance to heat and full auto fire. Most of you watching, if not all of you, are not going to ever fire your AR in a full auto mode. Most of the testing I've seen, and I've done a lot of research lately as I've been looking to select a proper barrel, most of the research I've seen suggests that you would need a rate of fire which is so outside what anybody's gonna do or what anybody can afford that spending the extra money on a chrome lined barrel versus a nitraded barrel really doesn't make sense. So what are the benefits of a nitraded barrel? Benefits of a nitraded barrel are that it's more corrosion resistant, both inside and out. And a lot of people automatically say, oh no, chrome line is a lot more resistant to corrosion. And that's simply not true. Nitrating it, if it's done properly, which is QPQ, in other words, the barrel is heated, it's quenched in a bath of salt and nitrogen, typically somewhere between 900 and 1100 degrees Fahrenheit. Then it's polished, that's your P, and then it comes back and again quenched. What this does is it creates a shell, or imagine like a layer where the chemicals react with your barrel. And what is one advantage about that is if you rifle this correctly, and you've got the grooves that are correctly rifled to the right depth and things like that, what you end up with is no deformation or sacrifice in your accuracy with that process. So when you look at a chrome lined barrel, then what you're talking about is a situation where you may start out with the same kind of steel, you might even treat it, but then you come back and you put a layer of something that is not the original host metal onto the metal, and that's the chrome. So it's kind of a plating kind of scenario. When you do that, you are going to have a hard time adhering to the rifling inside the barrel. And what that ends up doing, or what that ends up meaning basically, is that you're going to sacrifice some degree of accuracy. So that's basically the difference that we're talking about. And that's the only difference that we're really talking about in terms of accuracy, is that you're fouling those tooled threads. Now, when we talk about the difference between using a cold hammer forged process or button rifling, all that is the difference between how things are made, how those grooves are cut in. And the term cold hammer forge is something that was developed by the Germans in World War II, later used by the Soviets quite extensively, and it's a way to quickly and cheaply produce accurate rifle barrels. Okay, so basically what cold hammer forged is you insert inside your bore, you insert the pattern you want, and then you're hammering away at that thing. Button rifling uses a different process whereby you're coming in and it's more of drilling it out. So whether you're beating the shape into the metal, whether you're drilling the shape into the metal, that's the big difference. Now, people will say, well, cold hammer forged is just a lot more accurate. Truth of the matter is, if that were the case, why are the best target guns not cold hammer forged? Why are the best bolt action rifles in terms of accuracy typically button rifled barrels? So I'd have to come back and kind of give a little bit of a comeback on that. The other thing is, you'll see a lot of, well, you know, it's an FN cold hammer forged barrel. Truth is, guys, the firearms that the U.S. military, the M4 style firearms that are purchased from FN, or now we're back to Colt again, those are button rifle barrels. Those are not cold hammer forged. Those are chrome lined per military spec. When you see the cold hammer forged barrels for an M4 out there, that's kind of an aftermarket thing that's kind of thrown on people. And you know, the Daniel Defenses and the BCMs of the world have kind of picked up on it. And if you've noticed, it gives them an opportunity to charge more, usually just if you're buying the barrel itself, $100 more, $80 more, or more for the overall rifle, for a process which was invented to produce barrels cheaper and faster. So what FN basically does, and you might see this more than anything on Palmetto State, they'll say, hey, it's a cold hammer forge, it's produced by FN. My understanding is a lot of those barrels are basically FN rechecks. The other thing is the military uses cold hammer forged barrels on their light machine guns. They're not using them on, again, their M4 platform. So I think that's something that's important to realize when people start barking mil spec this, mil spec that, and it's got to be cold hammer forged or it's not. I'll challenge anybody to take a quality button rifled nitrated barrel up against a cold hammer forged chrome lined barrel and tell me which one's going to perform better. And the first question I'll ask is, what is the performance criteria? If your performance criteria is accuracy, I'm going to go with a nitrated barrel. Typically it will be more accurate. If it is what can withstand heat better over a long duration heavy firing and heavy use, then it's probably the hat's gonna come off, if you will, in favor of a chrome line situation. But the difference between 4150 button rifled, 4150 cold hammer forged, for us folks using it, and even in the military on the M4 platform, it's non-existent, guys. I'm telling you, I think this is just something that is a way to get more money out of you, and because people are so worried about having the best spec rifle, they'll willingly pay it, not getting any advantage out of it. So, not that I have a personal vendetta against cold hammer forged. I've used them, so forth and so on, but I'm just going to come out and tell you right now, I plopped down close to $1,500 last year for a cold hammer forged, chrome lined barrel, 4150 chromalloy vanadium steel, that was part of a Recce 14 from BCM. I'll also tell you, it's a damn fine rifle, and from a fit and finish perspective, the best I've ever had. But fit and finish doesn't really tell the whole story on a rifle like this. Here's a build that I've done using a nitraded barrel that's button rifled, and this is a significantly more accurate barrel than that BCM Recce 14. Some of you might say, dude, you gotta get BCM. In fact, there's somebody that comments on these videos that told me my Spikes build was trash. I should throw it away and get another BCM because they're the only guys making good rifles. It's ridiculous, the kind of comments that I see from people, and they're all hooked up on a brand. If I was hooked up on a brand, I'd just go buy this brand or that brand, but I think I do one better by putting together the components of a firearm that I happen to know what I'm looking for and what its use is, and I'm the one doing the quality check on it. I'm the one that can spend an hour making sure that that gas block is perfectly aligned. I guarantee you they don't do that in the Bravo company factory. They don't do it in the Noveske factory. They don't do it at LWRC or anywhere else. I will do that. You will do that if you build. So just a side note there. Anyway, there's lots of barrels out there on the marketplace. There's lots of good barrel manufacturers. You want to look at the profile you want. Obviously, if you want something that's going to be the most accurate, you want a thicker profile barrel. It's going to have harmonics that are less prone to interference. You want to get a free floated type of rail scenario instead of fixed front sight kind of A2 scenario, those kind of things. But look around, do research. There's some really good articles about barrels. You can learn a lot. I've learned a ton just here recently researching barrels, and I've always been a guy that reads up about them. A little bit of an engineering background here, and I can tell you that processes and metallurgy and all those kind of things matter, but make sure that you're picking your stuff and spending your money based on what matters on the way you're going to use it. There's no point in going out and buying something that costs a couple $100 extra. It's going to do absolutely nothing for you, and in some cases, as I illustrated earlier with the Recce 14, it won't be as accurate as something that costs less. So something to think about. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you watching. Lots more information out there on barrels. Suggest you look it up. This is Dr. Drake 63 saying so long.